How you doing? Welcome back to In the Sand podcast. I'm your host, Coach Brandon Sanders, and I'm excited to have everyone back. It's extremely exciting just to be able to sit down and communicate with another great coach. Before we get started, I'm asking that you please please share, and please subscribe so we can continue to create great content and share some of this great knowledge with the world. Coach Wilbanks is definitely a friend of mine. I'm not quite sure how we linked up. I know it probably had to do something with scheduling when he was at Union. Um, but one thing I do like about Coach is a man of integrity, and I have been thinking about this before I got on the show. We was at a summer league game. We was in Lee County, and of course he had a great team in Union, which we're gonna talk about later on. We had some young ladies that we was trying to develop, and maybe halfway through the game, a little bit, maybe third quarter, man, our team get the scuffling, man, and so I look up, and it's funny. Coach had two twins on his team. I had two twins on our team. I don't know how they got to fighting or whatever. And so we break them apart, and I take my team somewhere. Coach takes his team somewhere. Now, most of the time when you see issues, you see a coach, man, he or she is rowdy. They upset. They trying to cause confusion, not really trying to diffuse the situation. But Coach came back out, his girls were in line, and we finished the game. And a lot of times you can't finish the game, but that showed a lot of rapport that he had with his kids. And we're going to see this as we take the episode along. And then after that, man, we talked about it. Coach was super apologetic. I was too. It's just something that happened, but you can tell he wanted to make sure that, hey, this is not who I am. This is not what my program is. And that really meant a lot to me. And we continue to have dialogue. And so his honesty stood out to me. Him being on time, him being punctual. He came a lot of times to our shootouts when we had him at Pisgah High School. Always gave an encouraging word. And so obviously I had to get him on the podcast because, again, he reached out again and just gave super complimentary words to us. So I'm excited to have Coach Wilbanks on. And it was a crazy situation, Coach, because I know you remember it, but man, I was looking one way. Next thing I know, I hear whistles, boom, boom, boom. And Coach, I don't even think the girls landed a punch. I think they were just swinging.
I don't think they did either.
I don't think they hit anybody. But Coach, welcome to the show, man.
I'm glad to be here.
Yes, sir, man. And so, Coach, you did a lot of great things, and I kind of changed up how I kind of wanted to format this a little bit. I'm gonna let you open up with your journey, obviously, and then I'm gonna let you talk about some other things. But as we kind of go along in the podcast, I'm gonna allow you to break down your coaching career, but we're gonna kind of stop and talk about different stages of it because it's the thing that I kind of want to be able to talk about. And the biggest thing that I want y'all to hear from Coach Wilbanks is Coach Wilbanks in these few years has taken two teams to the Coliseum. He hasn't achieved the ultimate goal, but I know it's something in both of them that he's going to share with us that's going to help us all because some of us are trying to get there. And as I talked about 2 episodes ago with Coach Carlisle, when he went to Washington and he learned some things, I think if we can share some nuggets with each other, so when we get to the Coliseum or we go play on a national tournament, we're able to take the things that we hear and be a little bit better. So I'm excited about hearing that part because when you can get a coach that can take two different programs to the Coliseum and have a great season, that says that he or she is putting some good product together, but they have a strong program that can transition from place to place, school to school, etc. So, Coach, that's a shout out to you. But before we kind of get into that, Coach, and I learned some of these things about you, but I'm excited to learn a little bit more. Coach, I want you to just talk to us a little bit about how you became a coach, or why did you want to become a coach, and to where you are right now. So again, take us down, as some people say, take us kind of down memory lane as you give us your journey to where you are right now at Morton.
Okay. I can start with my dad. I know we're going to talk about our relationship a little bit later, so I won't get into too much detail. Okay. But growing up, he always coached us, whether it was park ball or all-stars or whatever, baseball, basketball, whatever sport it was, he coached. He was a mechanic in Carthage. for 20 years or so. He went back and got his degree when I was in high school. So he always had time for us, and I just knew growing up that I couldn't see myself doing anything but coaching. I just love sports, I still love them today. I was a better baseball player than basketball player. I thought that was going to be my thing, but I always enjoyed playing ball growing up. Actually, I had this wrote down in my notes. When I was in elementary, my dad was probably 40, 45 at that point. He was still playing in the rec leagues at Standing Pine and Redwater and all that. And I remember going 2 or 3 nights a week watching him. And then there were some nights where the other team didn't have enough to play, so they let me run out there, at 8 or 9 years old, and I'm out there playing with grown men. Of course, they're letting me shoot it and all that, but it was just being in the gym just kept giving me that desire. I get to junior high play, I get to high school, and we had a lot of coaching changes at Carthage from my 7th to 12th grade year. I think we had 4 different coaches. Got to 9th grade, I'm on the JV team. I play. Went through some things personally with the family did. And I'm not, contributing that happening to me. Ended up getting out of basketball. So I have a really different journey than most people that coach the sport. Because after my 9th grade year, I didn't play high school basketball anymore.
Really?
Yes, sir. I went to baseball. Thought it, like I said, I made some immature decisions. Was going to just work on my baseball career because, again, I was just a lot better at it. Now I still played with the team off campus and stuff. I still played pickup with them, so I knew I could play. Going into my senior year, I was gonna play. Erica McQueen, he was Erica Hall then. Big friend of mine had convinced me to come back out and play. I had talked to the coach at the time. He was game. He was one of my baseball assistants. He had seen me play in the gym. He's like, I think you can help us. And then he leaves going into my senior year. So we got a new coach, and I just decided I wasn't going to go down that road. And they ended up making a state championship and getting beat by Forest. So that's my unconventional journey through high school. Then you get in the coaching world. I graduated from Mississippi State in 2012, December of 2012. Okay, so I did my student teaching at League Central, which was where my dad had took that job that same year. He was at Morton, where I'm at now previously. So when he goes there, he knew I wanted to coach baseball. I didn't even want to coach basketball at this point. But he was like, you want to coach, help me out this year, and then you have something on your resume that'll help you get your foot in the door, hopefully, make some connections. And I was on the fence. I can remember like it was yesterday, sitting in the recliner. He was on the computer talking to me about it. And he was like, I just want you to know, if you decide to help me, you're all in. You're going to be at every practice, every game. You're not going to come when you want to, stuff like that. So I decided to help him, and that's the best decision I've ever made. I fell completely back in love with the sport of basketball. Ended up lucking into a PE job in January at League Central Middle School, which happened to be the girls' job, junior high girls basketball. So I did that for that semester, which, their season was done, but I still practiced them. Coached there and did the middle school girls for another year, and then the junior high boys coach left. So I'm the assistant boys at the high school at this point, officially, paid supplement, all that, and when the junior high boys coach left, I was going to transition to boys just to help, the program. We're going to get on the same page, doing the same things that the high school guys do. Mm-hmm. And the principal actually came to me and wanted me to do both of them. She wanted me to keep the girls and then take the boys. So I did that the rest of my time at League Central. Which was very time consuming. You got 4 junior high games a night, and I'm doing all for them. You know about that because you were at Pisgah.
I know, Coach.
And that led to me end up at Union. I got in the game late in that job. It was posted for 3 months, and I never really applied. I knew Josh Luckett was over there. I went to school with him. He's a good friend of mine. I talked with my dad, and we thought it was in 2017. It was really time for me to just go get some head coaching experience. Mm-hmm. So, I get there, and I think that team had won 14 games the 3 years combined before I got there. Mm. And I had 4 seniors that really bought in and led the way, and we went 15-13 my first year, made the playoffs. Now we got New Site beat us pretty bad in the first round, but just having that winning year for them and getting there was a big deal. And then year 2, I actually lost 6 kids off that team for various reasons. We talked a little bit before the podcast about how tough it can be going to a new program.
Yeah.
Won 17 games the next year, which was the Twins had moved in that you were talking about. They were freshmen, could already play. I'm not taking any credit for their skills and ability. They had it, coach. I just kind of showed them how to play basketball with a team. And we just took off. We won 23 the next year and ended up winning 25 my last year there. And then I ended up here. And I don't know if you want to get into the story about me coming to Morton yet or not, but it's a funny story in itself.
Well, I definitely want to get into that, but you said something that was good. I kind of want to piggyback on before, and I think this is good for our young. And I'm really hoping some of our coaches are allowing some of their kids to hear this. But as I look at your story, Coach, and nobody would have known until you shared it, that sometimes you don't really know the path you're going to take in life.
Yeah.
And sometimes you got to stay the course. Sometimes you got to change the course. But you just kind of got to be available to be able to make good decisions because, you were on the pathway to not even being around basketball. And it's funny how it comes like full circle where you're back doing something that you probably thought you'd never pick up again. And then you're able to reflect back. And as you say, before we started the podcast, we were talking about a student that we have common interests in, sometimes in life, we as kids, we make immature decisions or we just do things that it may not be the best thing for us, but because we're young, we just think anything can happen. We're invincible. We can just do whatever. But for them to be able to hear your story and just say, hey, I probably could have done this different, or I probably could have done this different. And those things I feel like make a difference because when kids can say, hey, Coach Wilbanks, he relates to me or he can understand it. I think that carries so much weight. So I'm really glad that you said that, Coach, because as I'm learning, as I'm getting older in the game of coaching, it's so many things that happen off the court that are so many life lessons. And I know that already, but as I just reflect back over the years and I hear all these stories from the podcast, small things in our lives have become great teaching tools for our student athletes. Before I talk about your Morton days, as you are at Morton, and you talk about how you got there, I can't go on any further until we talk about your dad and his relationship and just some of the things that he is doing. Now, I hope I ain't out of line with this, but Coach, how old is your dad right now?
He is, you got to make me do some math, man.
Uh-oh.
He was born in 59, so that's going to put him at 64.
64. And this is why I asked this, Coach. I had an opportunity, never had an opportunity to play, League Central in a game, but in the summertime, I always wanted to be able to play League Central because your dad, and you get a lot of that too. I see a lot of that in you, and we may talk about that later. But your dad get his kids to play at such a high level. I'm talking about the defensive side of the ball and the offensive side of the ball. And that team he had about 2 years ago that made it to the Coliseum, if they run into a different opponent, maybe not have to. I think it was Raymond. Was it Raymond they ran into? If they don't run into Raymond before the championship game, I think that it could go any way with them being a champion. And I had saw previous summer. And with your dad even being as old, a little bit older than we are, obviously, but the report that he has and getting his kids to play at a high level, it's amazing to be able to see. And your dad is just as competitive as anybody. So during the game, he's gonna give it to you, but at the end of the game, it's gonna be very complimentary, etc. But you got to be able to play it. And so for him to be able to do that, that's at that age. And I'm not saying he's an old grandpa. I'm just saying people don't realize. Some people think when you get a certain age, you can't do it anymore. Or some people say, man, I'm too old. I can't deal with these kids. Hey, I know Coach Wilbanks at League Central, man. He got those kids in line. They're acting right. They're behaving well. So I really like that about your dad. But just kind of talk about you, your relationship with him, and just some things that we may or may not know, and just some of the things that he's doing at League Central.
Right. Well, I tell people all the time that, outside of my wife now, as I have progressed in my life, he is still my best friend or one of my best friends. We talk every day just about. Now, during the season, every time I leave this gym and I'm going home, driving to Carthage, that's 35 minutes that we're on the phone talking about something, whether it's just life or or things he's doing or things I'm doing. I get to bounce ideas off of him. He's finally getting to the point now where he may take a drill or something that I'm doing. It ain't often, but I still use a lot of things that he did when I was there. Again, we're really close, man. I can't say that enough. I ended up probably, I guess, 10th, 11th, 12th grade. It was just me and him at the house. My sisters were out of the house. My mom had moved, and we bonded. He was coaching here at Morton softball, and again, I was playing baseball, and he didn't miss any game. He missed one game because he broke his collarbone. And I actually turned a triple play in that game. He's still sick about it. He missed it.
I hate it.
But at League Central, he starts with defense, and that's kind of where I have built my programs around. If you can stop people from scoring, it can make up for so many things. His big slogan every year is effort beats talent, and I've kind of carried that with me where I go. You can play teams that are way more talented than you, but if you out hustle them, there's a good chance that you're in the game with a shot to win it. And just like you said, there's a big age gap between him and his players now, and I think the older he gets, the more he kind of realizes that. But he's still figuring it out how to connect to them, and they still play hard. He's just I contribute all my success to him in our relationship. I really do.
And that's special, Coach, for you all to be able to have that bond. And the reason I asked that too, because I look back at my notes and I wrote down what you said when your dad was in rec league. You was alongside with him, and I was talking to another coach. I was talking to a coach maybe yesterday or today, but they were just talking about, it was Coach Butler. Coach Butler from East Mississippi. He was saying that he brings his son along on the recruitment trips and all the games because he said even though my son is 2, I think he's going to turn 3. He may not remember being on this, but the relationship of being there is growing strong. And I think just you being in the gym with your dad all the time, I think that really makes a difference, man. And that's what I try to do with my daughter. Of course, she'll be 2 in June the 17th. So I try to have her around as much as possible. Mama don't want her to play basketball, but she's doing everything, put in soccer and cheer and dance. But I say, hey man, let's see what you're gonna do with that basketball first.
Right.
But I think that's special, Coach. So shout out to Coach Wilbanks as well at League Central. So Coach, let's talk a little bit about Morton, man. Morton is a special place, man. I know a lot of good people that have coached there, worked there. Of course, I know Coach Bowie's there now on the boys' side. Great guys doing some good things there. Of course, a good friend of mine, which I taught. And of course, Coach Dawson, he was there, Coach assistant principal now at Provine High School. And even Coach Strong, she was at Morton for a little while before she came to Richland. Obviously, she's going to Forest now, and she speaks highly of you as well. So, Coach, tell me what makes Morton so special. Because there's a lot of good things from Morton. It's a lot of athletes came through there.
Right.
It's a lot of good teams that have come through there. And then, Coach, just talk about the school and talk about the community and then talk about your administration, because I found this out when I was doing my research. My guy, Coach Wilbanks, on the administration team as assistant principal and assistant AD. So, Coach, just kind of fill us in with that, because I always like to stop and pause, because when we post these videos or we post these podcasts, a lot of people, it's their first time coming on and they're usually supporting the person that's on here. So it's always good to recognize those people, because people love to be able to get their shout out. So Coach, talk us a little bit about Morton, man, and just everybody that's kind of, makes a difference at Morton High School.
Okay. I'll start with a story on how I ended up here. I had a childhood friend who was the assistant principal here last year. She's a little older than me, Coach Dickens. She's at League Central now. Used to coach at Kosciuszko.
Yep.
She had reached out to me on Facebook that spring and said, something about how much would it take for you to come be a Lady Panther, trying to be funny, because me and her had talked about the job previously. And I was, like I said, I was at Union. We had just come from the big house.
Yep.
Had a lot of talent coming back. The twins were coming back. 2 other starters were coming back. And I responded, you don't have enough money, being funny, being sarcastic. And she was like, well, at least, come talk to us. So I prayed about it, my wife, and, I need to give her a shout out, and as well as I do. During our season, without her and my two young children, because I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old, man, it's like they're a single mom for 6 months out of the year. And just want to give her a shout out because I couldn't do it without her. But back to Morton. So I come up here and I meet with her and the principal and the AD at the time, who was the football coach. And it just felt right. It really did. I tell people all the time when they ask me about should they interview here or whatever, my dad always told me go at least go hear what they got to say.
Yep.
So I go and I always tell them, you'll know, your heart will tell you when you leave that place if it's right for you or not. And I'm a firm believer of that. And when I left, I called my wife, told her I wanted to take the job. And they had offered, and she was down. I'll go wherever you want to go. So then I called my pops and talked to him. Of course, we had talked previously, and he would loved his time here. He said I need to meet with you this afternoon. So I met with him, and I told him I was going to take the Morton job. And he was, I won't say he was sad to see me go, but he asked, is there anything we can do? And I said, I just feel like it's my time to go help that community out. Because backing up a little bit, my mom is from here. She graduated from Morton High School. So I grew up coming up here some. But back to administrating good people. So I take the job. I meet Coach Dawson that week, and man, we connected immediately. And you spoke about him a minute ago. He's a great person. He's a high character guy. I actually still talk to him on a pretty regular basis. It's a lifelong friend. Yeah. Met Coach Collins. We built a pretty good bond too. Yeah. And me and Coach Dawson we bounced ideas, and he made my transition super easy. Mm-hmm. So the big thing I know about Morton is the community is there for you. They really are. A lot of people say some negative things here and there, but the community is there. If you've come to our gym, it's always going to be a good crowd on a Friday night. And the gym setup is unique, so it feels like they're on top of you. And I just love the atmosphere they got up here. And they've been good to me and my family. They welcome my kids and my wife every time. She comes to all the home games. And you've been in the gym, correct?
Right. Mm-hmm.
So they got the chair backs right over the top of the floor. And my wife and the kids always sit directly behind me, above our bench. And they were a little bit late one day, and somebody was sitting there. And I remember hearing it during the game, Coach. Some other fans that are sit behind them every time made them people get up. They're like, no, that's Coach's wife said you got to get up. And she was, of course, like, no, you don't have to sit up. We'll sit somewhere else. But they made them people get up out of their seats so they could sit down. So that's it's some good stuff. This year, actually, our principal from last year left, and he's at Pearl now, and that's Mr. Nobles. I appreciate him and for giving me this opportunity. He's a Morton guy. He still keeps up with us and loves the city of Morton. And then Coach Dickens had left because she had just had a baby and was getting out of the admin to be at home a little more. Mm-hmm. So they hired our middle school assistant principal, Miss French. And then she brought along another middle school teacher, Coach Blackshear. They were coming over. And the day they were announcing them to us as a staff, Coach Harrison gave me a call and was like, look, we're going to add an assistant principal spot. Would you want it? I was a little bit reluctant at first because I didn't know if that meant I wasn't coaching because I still have a lot of coaching left in me. Yeah. And he was like, no, Coach, we're going to leave that alone. You can still have your 4th and 5th period with your JV in high school. And we just want you to admin and, help clean the hallways up some. And I, of course, accepted, obviously. And here we are, and being on this side of things does make it harder at times. I heard Coach Tadlock speak on it. It has its pros because you can kind of get ahead of things before it gets bad with certain people. Yeah. But you also have your cons because you have to treat your players the exact same as you do everybody else in the school. So, and I tell them from day one, if your name comes across my desk, I'm not saving you. There's going to be some consequences, obviously, depending on what the situation is. So it can strain some relationships at times with kids. You know how kids are. But they know you love them and they know when they do wrong. You just have to sit down and talk to them. But it's some really good people here. And like you said, there's a lot of athletes. I used to look at this job kind of like you mentioned earlier how in the world are they not just out there winning everything? Because, you know, they always tall, long, and athletic. And
Mm-hmm.
you get here and you kind of see some of the stuff that these kids deal with at home that off the court uh, that a lot of people don't have to do.
Yeah.
And you have to build relationships with them first. And that's kind of what I did. And just, you know, I know I'm getting into other questions. I don't want to get ahead of the game here, but relationships are key. And it starts with your admin. They're real special. I mean, they let me do my job up here and down there. So
Coach, I think that's key, man. That the administration allows you to be able to coach, and I think that's kind of sometimes where the split sometimes happens between teachers, just academic teachers solely, and academic teachers that coach. They feel like that athletic coaches or sponsors get a little bit more perks than just the average academic teacher. And that's not necessarily true in and of itself. Sometimes special things require special situations, and special situations require special things. And so you have to kind of tweak, and that's just in life. You got to tweak some things to make some things work. So it's good to have an administration who allows you to be able to do those things, trust you, and coach. Yeah, man, Coach Dickens, good coach, man. I first met her when I was at Germantown. Obviously, I met her when she was at Kazi, and then also too when she was at she came to Morton. Man, she was always nice, always polite, and she was always a big supporter of that. And Coach Strong speaks highly of her, and I think the same as of her as well. Yeah, Coach Dawson again. That's something that you talked about relationship wise. And you heard it on the previous podcast, but to be able to still have a relationship with Coach Dawson when he was my former player for 3 years in high school, it's just
right.
amazing to be able to still kind of cherish that their relationship and grows, and that's what it's about. You know, kids that you or young people that you mentor. It's a cool to be able to see them on the other side, and you still can they can look back and say, okay, I see what you was doing, and still grow with that. And then, I mean, I learned so much from him, man, even though, and so it's no longer necessarily student teacher. He's really just a friend and friend relationship. So I
Right.
appreciate Dawson a whole lot. Coach Collins, man, I'm praying he does well at Rosa Scott. He's a good guy as well. And yeah,
Yes.
and playing at Morton's gym, yeah, you have to be prepared because yeah, like say the bleachers are right there, man. The fans are right above you, man. And on a packed night, it's always good to play. And I really am a big branding guy, facility guy, and I love what I guess I want to say Scott County has been doing it with all of the gyms in Scott County. And I could be
Mhm.
wrong, correct me with that, but I love the gym because y'all have a great facility, great locker rooms, great space, great viewing for a basketball game. And I always felt, and Justin said it as well, if Moore never gets a nice floor, it
Mhm.
set it off. And it's amazing to be able to see that, Coach. So I'm glad that they put investment inside of that. And it's Coach Harrison, right? Is it Coach
It
Harrison?
is.
Yeah,
Yes, sir.
it's good to have him in that spot because I know he's an athletic guy, but he knows what's important academic wise.
Right.
But for him to have a basketball mindset, that helps a whole lot for us basketball coaches, but it also helps everybody else. So shout out to Coach as well. All right, Coach, let's kind of get into it about the topic I wanted to talk about and focus on is really, and I said it earlier, but it's the process of building a successful basketball program. And so you kind of talked about your why a little bit, Coach. So I kind of want to go back to your Union days, and I kind of want to just come back towards your Morton days because you made two Coliseum appearances. So I kind of want to get a little bit more specific about those things. Now, you talked about how you got to Morton. Of course, we're going to talk about the Twins as well and just building that. But Coach, talk to us about how did you build the program at Union? And
Okay.
then talk about things you implement, and then talk about just that run to the Coliseum. And then we'll do the same thing kind of with Morton and see, did you do the same thing? Did it have to change a little bit? So we can kind of learn because during this time, and you talked about it, and again, this talks about your character as well. Before we started this podcast, you asked me, man, how was my journey? well, how was my year? And so we talked about some things, and I'm interested to learn how you kind of implement things that I possibly can implement into my system, but also for new coaches who are going into a new program.
Okay. Uh, when I got, I get to Union, like I mentioned, they had some four upperclassmen that had a lot of experience, which, and to be honest with you, there was four high character kids, so they made my job a lot easier. I just had to show them basketball. They were good people. They were great leaders on the court. You looked at them from the outside as well. They're not that athletic. They're going to have to play zone, going to have to do this and that. And I built a relationship like I talked about earlier with them. I sat down actually and met with them, talked with the four seniors one-on-one to see kind of their vision and goal for the program with me. And then I kind of laid out my expectations. I told them, I don't care how many games you won. This year, we're going to win. We're going to win more than we lose. That is our first goal. So we had those meetings. And again, man, that summer we played a lot. And I'm actually having to do that this year. I won't get into it that much yet, but I wanted to see what they knew. I had never seen Union play at that time. I was at League Central, so we never played them really. So that first summer, we played, I think, 17 games just to kind of see where we were at. And then we kind of took off. I started with defense, like I mentioned earlier. We do man-to-man stuff every day, whether we're playing man or not, because I feel like those concepts can be attributed to any defense that you're going to get into. And then just getting the kids to be dedicated, be on time, practice hard. And the key, which I struggle with more now, is what are you doing outside of basketball practice? Are you touching the ball at all outside? Because some days you only get 50 minutes. You can't create a great program with 50 minutes a day. So that first year, like I said, they set the foundation. They led the younger ones because I knew the younger ones were the more athletic group and had the potential. So we go into year two. I actually lost all starters but one due to, I had one quit. One had some health issues, didn't get to play. And then the four that graduated, one of them come off the bench. But that next year, I was really worried about. So we had 0 ball handlers. And then luckily the Lord blessed me and the twins moved in. That took all the pressure away from everybody else. So they come in and they're wild. They on the court, they're wild. They're running and gunning. I'm trying to teach them how to play and set other people up. But they love defense, and it always goes back to defense with me. So we implemented a lot more man-to-man run and jump stuff then. Which took us to our third year, which I knew we would be pretty good. I think we went 23-8, maybe. Made it to the second round. First time they had won a playoff game in a while, which started getting fans in the bleachers. Fans in the bleachers makes a big difference because once kids see that they got some support, I think they play a little harder. Which then took me to that last year where I knew we were going to be good. I didn't know we would be Coliseum good. And them jokers, and you remember that the game you talked about earlier. I can remember a few details here and there. We were run and jump that whole summer, just practicing, and we wanted to be in your face, and we wanted you to feel it when you got through playing us. And they bought in completely with that, and we run and jump a lot of people that year. And got a little revenge on West Lincoln at our place in the third round. They had put us out the year before. So we get to them and hit a shot is actually a senior with about a minute left to go up one and just held on for dear life, And it goes. If you want me to give you some side stories, I hate to keep you longer than I need to, but
go ahead, man. Go ahead. That's what we're here for.
Okay. We go back to talking about those relationships and all of my young coaches, that is the first thing you've got to do. If your kids don't think you love them, they're not going to give you everything they got. I had the senior that hit that shot to send us to the Coliseum 3 weeks prior. We had almost had a blow up in the locker room at Scott Central during a district game. I benched her the rest of the game. I benched her for 2 or 3 games after that because me and her kind of got into it. And she knew I loved her, and she knew that she was wrong, but she was just hard headed enough she didn't want to admit it for a while. And until she wanted to talk to me about it in a minute, she was going to come sit in street clothes on the bench. and we finally had a really good talk. And again, it goes back to that. That's the kid that hits the shot to send you to Jackson. It's just funny how the world works. So, again, and the relationships are key as far as implementation stuff goes. That's what we do. We have to play hard. Again, effort beats talent, and I can't say that enough. And a lot of young coaches ask me, well, what's your style of play? And to be honest with you, I have things I like to do, but my response to them is always, you got to do whatever your team can do. Okay. You got to fit your stuff to your team, not your team to what you want to do. So whether that's if you're a man-to-man guy and you hate playing zone, well, you may have a zone team that's better at zone, and that's what you've got to do. So I'm a big proponent of doing whatever puts your kids in the best situations to be successful. And it to be honest with you, it varies year to year. My 4 years at Union, we were a zone team 1 year, and we slowly integrated into that run and jump. So that's about that with Union. They have some really good people there, man. They made my life so much easier when I first got into coaching. Josh, I can't say enough about Josh Luckett my first year. He helped me answer all my questions, helped me build a brand that we wanted to do, the brand of basketball we were trying to do. They had great administrators there that gave me freedom to coach the kids hard, probably harder than they're used to being coaching. I'm a Carthage person through and through. It's a different area than Union is. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is.
Right. So I was probably a little rougher around the edges than they were used to, but again, the community bought in, and it was really fun to watch there be 30 people in the stands the first year to what it ended up being that last home game that we had.
Yeah, Union was a special place, and even I was thinking about something. When you talk about fan base, what's the guy? His daughter was a post player. He came to all the summer league games, all the games. Like, he always was there supporting his daughter. And him and my brother got super cool, man. Like, just
Right.
like just out of the blue. Like, every time we came in the gym, and even the year after you left when we played Union, man, him and my brother was just linking up, talking, man. And that just shows just like the community of Union. Coach, what's his name? He told me his name, but it's been a
Was
while.
it Coach Breland?
No, not Coach Breland. This was a parent.
Okay.
That was Coach Breland on the football side. This was a
Oh,
parent.
you're talking about Maurice.
Yeah.
Maurice English.
Yep, that's what he is. Yeah. So yeah, man, he's a good guy, man. Big supporter, super positive. And he's the type of fan that we wish that all coaches, we all wish we could have, man. He
Right.
never was critical. You never heard him trying to be a coach on the sideline. You never heard him just being negative. It was all about positivity. He never really was just he was always encouraging his daughter, but it never was one of those things where he became just a non good fan. He was just always there. So it was good to see that, though. And it was just weird, man. I'm coaching one day and I look over across the sideline. I see Justin, man. He's talking to the opposing team's fans. Man. They got a good relationship, man. So it was good to see that. And I can remember when we took Pisgah down, when we came to play you all, I think that probably had to be later on that year, because there was, again, a couple months from the summer. You're right. The atmosphere was very, very good, man. The girls' game was good. Our boys' game very good as well, man. And so it was a good place to be at. Coach Luckett, man, is a good guy, man. A lot of people speak highly of him. I had an opportunity, him and I, we were in the same professional development when school started. I had an opportunity to talk to him a little bit after recession, man, and he's legit. So it was good to be able to see him do that at Nova's ranking, because again, people speak highly of him, and it was good to see him be successful. All right, Coach, talk us a little bit about the run at Morton. And then after that question, I'm just going to ask you, well, you can go ahead and tie them both in together. Talk about the run at Morton and get to the Coliseum as well. Because y'all had some pretty good games leading up to it, especially in that third round. Yeah, the third round, obviously, which was a great atmosphere. And then obviously getting to the Coliseum for the fourth round game. But talk about that run. And then, Coach, what I want you to talk about is, for those of us who haven't been there, I've been there as a player, played as a player, won a state championship there. So I get that part of it, but haven't been there as a coach on that side of it. So talk about how do you prepare your kids to play in the big house, as they always say? And then the third part is, what are some things that you learn that may help coaches who haven't been there, or also things that you feel that can help you be successful? So again, talk about your run in Morton to the Coliseum, just obviously how you prepare your kids for that moment, and just some of the things that you've learned just in the experience from these 2 years.
Okay. Well, last year they were on probation when I took the job. Because of a previous incident the year before I had got here.
Yeah.
And we had a good summer that first year, and I'm talking about it a little bit because it leads all into this year's success. We had 2 seniors on that team. We go to Brandon in the Jamboree. We beat McGee by 5. It was double digits, 10 or 11. Which McGee was a pretty solid team.
Yeah.
Then we're playing Raymond in the second game of Jamboree at Brandon. We're up 8 or 9 with 2 minutes left in the game, Coach. I've taken some of my starters out because I was trying to prove a point this year. I mean that year. They didn't do something I liked, so I put some of the younger ones in. And there's a loose ball, and there's kids diving, which is what you love to see from both teams. And I'm not blaming anybody because our kids are just as guilty as anybody, but it happened longer than it should have.
Yeah.
And you know how girls can be.
Yes.
2 kids hold on to the ball, ripping from each other, and then they start jawing, and then we have an incident. Yeah. By the time I run out there this time, there had been some punches thrown. I saw it coming. I run out there, and I'm at the wrong group. I'm by the kids that are with the tie ball. Yeah. And then 2 other kids are fighting up here beside me. So we got put on a probation where we could not make the postseason my first year here, which was, man, that was a blow to me because I had been in the postseason every year as an assistant or head coach. That's the only year in my 12 or 11 years now that I have not been able to make the postseason. And how do you get kids to buy in? Because you're a new coach at a new place, that you had the summer with them, but your first real Jamboree game, now your season's pretty much over.
Yeah.
And you've got 28 more games you've got to play. And it was tough. And I'm not going to sit here and deny it. The kids, I will give them all the credit in the world. They took it and they learned from it, played hard, practiced hard. We got to January and we're 7-10, going into like 9 games left maybe in district. And we were at a crossroads. Me and my assistant, which I need to make sure I speak about a little bit later. He's a really great guy. We went off on them at Ridgeland in the locker room after game because I thought that's the one time they laid down and quit on us. So we go off and I let him talk, and he's going off on them because he's not the loud. I can be kind of loud. You know how I am during games. I'm a big yeller. He's quiet. He's more reserved, but he lit into him that game, and I was so glad to see it. And we were at a crossroads, and something happened that clicked for us after that because we ended that year on a 10-game winning streak and we won the regular season district, which happened to be Union. We beat Union twice, which is, where I came from that previous year, which was super sweet.
Yeah.
And then that first Union game, I think, made a huge difference too. We were down 19 going to the fourth quarter and won by 3. They didn't score in the fourth quarter. I don't know how the world that happened, but it did. And we ended up winning that regular season district. So then we built on that whole spring. I'm telling them, look, it's big house or bust. It's big house or bust because you're on a 10-game winning streak. We went 16-2 last summer. Had a lot of talent. So I told my friends and my wife, I'm going to be disappointed if we don't make it to Jackson. I know how hard it is to get there.
Yep.
And you have to have a little luck along the way, but it would have just been a disappointment if we didn't. So I had made the schedule to where we would play a lot of 3A South teams to kind of see where we were at. Mm-hmm. And, we kind of rolled through early in the year. We were 11-0 going into Christmas, playing at League Central, which I had still coached a few of those kids in junior high when I was there. And we actually go down there and lay an egg, Coach. We were down 19 at half, fight back, get down 3, maybe hit a shot to go down 1, and end up losing by 3. So how are we going to handle adversity? Because it's the first time we saw it this year. That was a big question for us. We go into I want to say we may have played one game in between that, and then we got the Scott County tournament, which, that's a big deal in Scott County. It's a whole different ordeal. And we play Lake. We're the 1 seed, and we're playing Lake, who was the 4 seed that we had beat a few weeks before that. But Coach Moncrief does a good job, and Lake and Coach Bowie had built that program too, and they had coming off a state championship at that time. And we go in there and they completely embarrass us. They really embarrass us because I think we lost that game by 25 points.
Oh,
yes, sir. I actually told my team at one point in the fourth quarter, because my starters had quit on me. The first time since that Ridgeland game I spoke about. And I told them, look, I'm not going to take you out because you think I will because you're jogging them. I said, I'm going to let you wear this one in front of all these fans to see if I could motivate them a little bit. And, of course, that didn't work. And we ended up getting ran out the gym, and I ended up subbing them out anyway. So then we have one more game that we win, and then we play Forest in district. And that's a huge thing here too. If you're at Morton, you can't lose to Forest. If you're at Forest, you can't lose to Morton.
Can't do it.
And they're playing at our gym, and it's packed, Coach. It's a Friday night, I think, and it is there's people in the lobby standing, and it's packed. And Forest was really good this year, and man, they got in us, and they beat us by 20. They beat us 46-26. So that 2-week window, I'm kind of at a loss at this point because we were on such a high, being 11-0, and then we hit this rough stretch, which every good team goes through. I mean, every team's going to hit a rough part of the season. We kind of call it the dog days of the year around Christmas, where you're tired and you're getting a little break and coming into district play. And I thought I had lost them that night. I actually had one of my better players had texted me, and I heard some rumors that she may want to quit. And I talked to her. I said, well, you're going to have to come see me in person and tell me to my face. I'm not going to let you do it through a text message. And she came to practice the next day and was over it. You know how kids are. In that moment, her world had ended. She had got beat by Forest, and that was 3 losses out of 5 games, I think. And she apologized for sending the text. And she's a really good kid. Have a good relationship with her. So I knew she wasn't going to, but anyway. And then we took back off. We didn't lose again until we got to the Coliseum. First round game, these kids had never played a playoff game. I had learned that. And I've got 7 seniors, Coach, that have never been to the postseason. And I'm nervous for them because, I know we're a better team than the team we had played. But heck, you've never been there. You don't know what to expect out of kids. And I think we won 65-17. That we jumped out big, and all the worry went away quick in that game. Placed St. Patrick in the second round, and we got to host it because we won the district tournament. I guess I skipped all that. We ended up beating Forest in the district tournament because we hosted it, which was a really big boost for us. So we get St. Patrick in the second round, and we beat them by 30 or so. I mean, we were playing really well. There you go. Yeah, you got it pulled up for me.
Yeah, man. Yeah. I was looking at it, man. I'm excited, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Go ahead. You're good. And then we get to Franklin County, who we had beat by, I think, 40 earlier in the year at our place. So, at this point, you're in the third round at a neutral site. And I knew Franklin County was a better team, and they were at our place that night. And I'm a little worried about that game because again, you're dealing with 17, 18-year-old females that just beat a team by 40 earlier in the year that you've got to go beat in a do-or-die game at this point. And we started slow. They took the lead early, and then we just kind of relaxed. And my best player that I was talking about earlier actually came out and I think had 22 of our 44 points. She took over for us and led us to Jackson. And that week leading up to the Coliseum game, man, we had the 9 a.m. tip-off, which I'm not a fan of. I'm not going to sit here and bash anything, but you play all year and then you got a 9 o'clock game you got to get ready for. 9 a.m. And my admin, Miss French, I sat down and asked her, do you think that Monday and Tuesday I can get the girls out and us practice at 9? And she was super supportive. She let us do that. So we got 2 days of 9 a.m. practice, which I think helped.
Yeah.
And to be honest, man, our kids, I don't think really realized the magnitude of what they were getting to do. And when you're that age, you're going to Jackson, you're all excited and all that, but how special it is to be there. I know a lot of great coaches that have never made it. That to be honest, we're probably better coaches than I am. I just have been fortunate enough to the dominoes fell my way. So that 9 a.m. game against the defending champs, they got the 3A Player of the Year. I'm putting bulletin board material everywhere in the locker room, coach. I got quotes and newspapers and who made the All-Star game and who didn't on our team. I had it highlighted, hanging on the board. And we came out and had a really good showing. We played like we belonged there. We bank in a 3 to end the third quarter on a 9-0 run to tie it. It's 27-27, and I was telling myself, if we can hold them under 40, we're going to have a good chance at winning. And then the fourth quarter, their experience kind of took over. They took a little bit of a lead, and we missed 6 free throws in the fourth quarter and lost by 4, which makes you sick. But that's a tough conversation to have at the end because they're so hurt, and you're hurt, but you want to be strong for them, and you want to express how proud you are of them. But in that moment, they're not trying to hear all that. You know how it is. But just getting there is a big deal. Now, that's my 4th time I've been as an assistant or head coach, and to me, I'm at the point now where I'm tired of just going. I'm ready to go get one, and I've got to figure out how to be better in those games to get it done. I thought we managed this game really well, but I didn't do enough. I didn't have us prepared enough, or didn't do enough, call the right thing in the game, or whatever it was, to get us over the hump. Because that's my job. The kids go play, and I take full responsibility on getting them ready to win and figuring it out. But going on to your next question about things I've learned from those games at Union and Boonville, guards win playoff games. It's really that simple. You've got to have really good guard play. And that, to be honest, I thought that was going to be one of our weaknesses this year, but we had a 10th grader step up and run point 4, so my best player could play on the wing. And them two did a really good job against their press, and Boonville got out and ended up playing a box and 1 and all that. But the key to Jackson, and it's really, I say the key. I don't know. I hadn't got it done yet, but you've got to win the paint points. Boonville's big girl really killed us down low, and we got to a point in that second quarter where we were just out there pulling it, and we didn't score but 3 points in the second quarter. So paint points and free throws are huge. Obviously, the little things like rebounding and all that make a big difference too. But one of the big things I've noticed from just watching games there too is you have to continuously tell your kids about the 3-point lines. They all want to go stand behind the white one, and that's not the line that we use in high school. We use the blue one, which is 3 feet closer. Yeah. And it took us a whole half, Coach, this year to get them to realize, no matter how many times I said it, that they need to quit standing behind that white line and scoot up toward where we're used to shooting. But I'm excited about kids getting to experience that, because I try to tell them that's memories that they're going to have the rest of their life. Yeah. They're going to talk about it with each other at reunions or whatever it is. The community's going to talk about it. Coach Bowie actually got the guys there this year too, so it was really a great showing for us, because we played at 9, and then Forrest played, and then our boys played. So the whole Scott County was in that building that morning at 9 a.m. And Boonville, of course, always has a good crowd. It's just exciting to see kids get out there. And as far as being able to prepare them, I don't know if I have the answer to that, Coach. I just, we try to let them, teach them to live in the moment. And of course, you're going to be nervous, but I try to tell them, once that ball gets thrown up, it's basketball. The key is to score more points than the other team. It's the same game in a bigger building. And a funny story about this year, I had 2 girls after they call out lineups, and to be honest, Coach, I was super nervous all the way to there. The bus ride that morning, I was nervous. And I'm not one to usually get that nervous at games, but I knew we had a chance to win it. So I'm nervous. And then once I step in the building, I calm down. I'm relaxed. we've been here before. We got to get it done. So they call out starting lineups, and I've got two starters that come up to me and they're shaking. Coach, I'm nervous. I don't know what to do. So I try to be human for them, and I'm like, look, well, I was nervous the whole way up here. I said, but once I stepped in here and they called your names out, I was nervous because I knew we had a chance to win, and it's about time. Let's go figure it out. Once the ball gets thrown up, you're going to relax, just go play ball. And it's just fun. It really is. And like you said, you've played there, and you know how it is. It's a special experience that I really wish every kid could get to experience at some point in their life. But in sports, that ain't how it works, So.
So that's amazing, man. And I'm glad that you kind of walked us through it. And I'm gonna start back at the beginning, man. Like just looking at the schedule, to be able to make that run. And coach, these were some quality teams on here. So I'm just kind of just going through the list because when I look on here, and I don't want to overlook anybody, but I'm just familiar with the teams that I play. I'm looking, you guys see Newton on here is always solid, Crystal Springs. Lake, obviously, with Coach Moncrief, again, always going to be prepared. Florence got two post girls and a style of defense. Philadelphia, obviously, Bay Springs, man. Bay Springs has those two or three tall girls.
They're huge, coach.
Yeah, trust me, they are, man. And coach, they move so well, man.
They do.
And then she got down to the Coliseum as well. And then I guess if I rewind a little bit, you got Lake on there, so that's another Coliseum team. And so just to go through that is always good. And you always, as a coach, being undefeated is always good. But and you hate to say it, you got to get that loss because sometimes that one loss, it really, because when you winning, as coaches, we know what we're not doing well. But I speak for myself. When we had a pretty good streak when I was in my previous school, I knew some things that we wasn't doing well. But when you winning, you kind of address it, but you don't really maybe give all the focus to it. But when you lose that first game, you really kind of use it as a staple. And then I look when you lost 2 games, and then you pick it right back up. And they obviously play Forest. Obviously, that's a rival game, and then they're a Coliseum team as well. So just for you all to kind of maneuver that, figure that out, and be successful with it, is amazing.
Yeah.
That Forest and Morton rival, it is very, very it's very big because I can remember Coach Strong even saying that. She said that when she played in that game, it was like stressful for her. So I know Coach Strong is speaking facts because when your player felt that kind of emotion, it just made me think about it because she said, Coach, that was hard. She said and to be honest, she loved the rival, but she said she almost hated it because the pressure from the city was so much that you really didn't want to let the city down. I know one of her good friends, Alexia Jones, who coaches at Pelahatchie, I think she went to Morton. They were good friends, and they couldn't almost be friends because of that. So that's something that we work with kids is playing under pressure and being successful. And you're right, Coach. The Scott County tournament, man, that's like the Coliseum there, man. Especially when you got good teams. And here's it because I think Sebastopol it ties into that. Is that right? So if you got that game at Sebastopol, man, you got to get there super early, man. So you talk about just that tournament in and of itself is just amazing. I've always just kind of wanted to go to experience, but I remember one year when it was at Sebastopol, I said, man, ain't no sense in me trying to go because you ain't getting there early, you ain't getting in. So that's good, Coach. And before we transition, I'm glad you said this, Coach, because Justin and I, we talk about this all the time. And I don't know why kids do it. And you said it, and I'm glad you said that. If you don't hear anything else about going to the Coliseum, please emphasize this to your kids. Every game we watch, kids, they always go to that third line. And coach, so you got 1 line, you got 2 lines, you got 3. So they shoot from the third line, then they taking 3 or 4 steps back from the third line. So I'm like, man, y'all are shooting the ball so far. And coaching now, we always discuss what can be done because naturally we teach our kids not to step on lines. And I'm thinking just as a player, it's kind of hard to stand to, I think it's the blue line. It's kind of hard to stand on that line because you're afraid that it won't count. But we got to find a way I wish they could take those two lines up. That would help so much. Because when you watch games, coach, kids be letting that thing fly for no reason. Like I'm saying, man, you literally shooting a shot 6 feet away that you don't even have to shoot. And I think that
From the
makes,
parking lot.
yeah, man, it's amazing to see. So it wasn't your team, coach. And coach, I watched that game. And to be honest, coach, I would even give you down to the last 2 or 3 minutes of that game. I thought that the game was still right there for you to win. I want to say, did one of your players foul out or get in foul trouble or something like that? Was it?
Yeah, our tallest post player, who's a junior, picked
Yeah.
up 2 early ones. She sat, I think,
Mhm.
I ended up sitting there longer than I was planning on it with the fouls because the kid I'd put in was playing really well. I didn't want to take her out. But yeah, she had some foul trouble, and then late in the game, I think she may have fouled out.
Mhm. So yeah,
But
it was like I said, it was a great game to see. And then and I know it doesn't mean anything, but Boonville, they have a great program. I believe it's Coach Smith, if I'm not mistaken,
it
but
is. He does a really good job.
he does a real good job with it. And so, and again, I'm kind of jealous, man. I'm like, man, he doing it on the girls and boys side. So I wish I'd have had me a little bit of that.
Right.
It is good, man. But coach, I thank you for that insight because that's something that we can all kind of glean from and be successful with that. Coach, talk a little bit more about your defense. I know you talked about it a little bit, and of course, run and jump is something that is a staple for you. And I can be honest, I tried to glean some things from you because I noticed when we played you all, I noticed. And I try to watch, and I'm an observer. I noticed. I said, Coach is really trying to force kids to use their weak hand.
Mhm.
I hate to say weak hand, but their less dominant hand. He's trying
Right.
to force kids down the sideline where you get into an uncomfortable position, and then we take advantage of you. So I tried to glean from that. It said making kids use their non-dominant hand. And I know even Coach Bowie on the boys side, I know that he kind of does that somewhat, especially when he was at Lake on the girls side. Kind of does do the same thing. So, Coach, give us some things that you do defensively, maybe some drills or maybe some implementations that you do about your defense, and then we'll kind of get into some fast break questions because again, defense is kind of what I consider to be a staple for you.
Right. It most definitely is. We always start with 3-on-3 stuff, just simple 3-on-3 D shell to begin with to let them learn the difference in guarding the ball, guarding in deny, and then being in help, and I'm not as big on terminology as a lot of coaches probably are. I do make them talk during our drills and you can say deny and help, or you can say gap. Just let your teammate know you're there is the way I see it. And then we do a lot of help and recover a drill, just a simple attack and kick. And it, they're helping and they're sprinting, closing out, high hands, blocking out after the shot, help the helper where you're helping your teammate that's helping off their man. And then we progress to 4-on-4 and 5-on-5. We do a lot of zigzag dribbling. I do variations of it where you're doing the basic old school free throw line, half court, free throw line, baseline, and then we let somebody guard them.
Yeah.
Half speed to half court, and then I want you to go full speed the second half. And then we do a variation of it to where I let you go. And this worked a lot better at Union than it has so far here as far as the man-to-man stuff. We hadn't been able to run and jump here. We actually zone press because they're just more comfortable with it. But we still practice some things. Like you said, we want to try to make you turn as many times as possible, which is that's anybody's basic. If you're playing full court man, just the more they change direction, the more likely they are to toss that thing up and give it to you. I do a lot of lane line to sideline, so you're on the baseline, you're just playing one-on-one to the other end. You can't go inside the lane lines, you can't go out of bounds. So you got this, 25-foot little space that your girl's all in your crap trying to make you turn as many times as possible. And you got to get to the other baseline without turning it over. And I make our post players do it too. Which, offensively, I'm not a big I say positionless basketball. That's what they call it, but we really just do controlled street ball. Our 5-out, 4-out is controlled street ball. It's got simple concepts. You pass, you screen away, you pass, you cut. It's not rocket science. We try to dribble drive a lot out of it,
Yeah.
which all that be I really feel like plays into helping us defensively, because you're getting a little bit of everything when you break up and you do what we call three stop, where defense, if you stop offense 3 times in a row, you get the ball, and then it's your turn. If they score on that third possession, it starts over. You're back on defense for 3 more stops. You know what I mean? And that's simple stuff that I've got from my dad that we talked about earlier. He's a big proponent of playing 3 stop in the half court setting. And then we just take it and run with it. They know if they don't play defense, they're not going to play. I want you to be able to go give me 20, but it doesn't help me if you're giving me 20 and giving up 25. I need you to have that dog mentality and get out there and stop somebody from scoring. And I say it one time, I say it many times in practice. My first rule, which should be everybody's first rule of defense, is you got to stop the basketball, whether you're on the ball, in the gap, in the 9, whatever you're in. You've got to stop the basketball. If you let them get in the paint every time, then there's no chance for you. I really don't have any special drills. We just work on the basic stuff of that and try to be really excellent at it. I like the bench to get hyped. If we're locking somebody down, you see them having to turn their back to you to reverse dribble or whatnot. I want my bench hyped, making them even more nervous. You cheer your teammate on, gives them a little extra juice to try to get that 5-second count.
Yeah.
And we're big at trying to keep them on one half of the court. Which kind of what you mentioned earlier is that we're going to force you up the sideline and we're going to try to keep you on that side. We want to rotate up and steal that reversal pass if we get a good trap. It's a million different ways to skin the cat when you play basketball. Everybody's pretty much got the same ideas and plans, but there's a million different ways to teach it, and some things work for others better than me. And I know you interviewed Coach Carlisle recently, like you talked about earlier, and he's always that big matchup zone guy, and I really wish I knew how to teach that because it is super effective.
It is.
And I'd love to sit down and watch him practice one day just to teach it, because I feel like my current team, we're so big and long that would be great for us. And maybe I can reach out to him and work that out one day. But I'm like you. I try to watch games and other coaches and steal little things. And if I see something I'm not real sure about, I might even reach out and ask them. Coach, I noticed you did this. Do you mind sharing with me what you do to make that click for certain kids? And I have been fortunate to have really good kids and really good assistant coaches, and I know if we've had some success at all 3 programs I've been at, and that's not all because of me. That's because the kids buying in and all that. But I said all that to say I still learn something every day.
Yeah.
Or try to, at least. If I have a down 10 minutes in my office, I'm up here looking up new drills to do something, just to give the kids something else to teach the exact same thing, maybe. But you got to keep it fresh for kids these days, or you're going to lose them in practice, and that effort's going to drop, and it's just going to be an issue. So that's just the gist of us. I want you to go out there and play hard. You play hard, I can live with mistakes.
Coach, simplicity is nothing wrong with that, man. And I think some coaches, and it's good for young coaches, you're going to get so many good drills. You're going to see some things on YouTube, some things on Twitter. You're going to go to the MAC clinic this summer. You may go to the clinic down in New Orleans this summer. You're going to get so many different things, and you want to do so many things, have so many acronyms. But if you can find something that you do, and I heard someone say this about Kobe Bryant, if you can find something that you do and you do it every single day and you execute it, you're going to take your team so much further than when you're trying to dibble dab in this and this and
right.
this and this. And it's okay just to be simple. I think the first coach I heard admit that, I think it was a couple of years at the MAC clinic, obviously Coach Billups at Lanier. I mean, he was a speaker at the clinic. And so, man, we're excited to hear Coach Billups because we know his legendary, career wins, etc. And Coach Billups, man, he gave us about 3 or 4 things, and it's all basic. And then he said, we don't do much here. We don't do much, man. This is what we do. and we executed well. Like you didn't really get a lot of X's and O's from it. You didn't get a whole lot of drills, but it was super simple. And that's what made me say, hey man, you can be comfortable. You got to be comfortable with doing what you do well. And it ain't got to be super complex. And of course, you know, the legend speaks for itself for what Coach Billups did, but that really kind of put a spotlight and say, hey man, you can be simple with it and still be successful. And I think people get a misconception about, okay, simple is easy or simple is you ain't really trying hard. No, simple is simple, but it makes it for you. So it was good to see that. Coach, I know we mentioned this. I think it's let's talk about it. Is Eric Jones the assistant? Is that right?
Yes,
Yeah, let's go ahead and talk about Coach Jones, man, and then we're gonna get into your fast break questions because I will be released if we don't mention Coach Jones.
Okay. Yeah, you know, Coach Jones has been a head coach for a long time. He's coached longer than I have. And when I interviewed, he had already taken the assistant spot here. You know, and to be honest with you, one of the questions that the AD at the time asked me was, you know, how do you feel about having somebody with that resume as your assistant? And I don't know, I was real simple. I said, man, I'm excited. You know, I've coached against him when he was at League Central and I was at Union, and you know, my dad worked with him, so he knew always told me about how good a guy Coach Jones is. You cannot find a better person. So I mean, I was excited. Like, you know, like I just said a minute ago, I'm never too prideful to learn or ask questions or anything, and he makes my job a lot easier. With every practice, man, we break up into two groups, and at first, you know, because I was always like, well, my neck's on the line. So, coach, I kind of want you to work with the posts doing this, not necessarily this specific drill, but I want you to work on this however you feel comfortable working on it. And I'll take the guards. And about a month after that, I was like, coach, we're breaking up in two groups. You got the post players, I got the guards. 10 minutes, you do whatever you want to do. Because you knew you could trust him. And we do that every day, and then we flip flop. I'll take the post. The next 10 minutes, he takes the guard. So he's got his own 20 minutes of freedom at our practice to coach him up. And I don't consider him an assistant. I tell people all the time we have two head coaches. We're very fortunate to have two head coaches on our staff. And man, he's a great guy. He is a great guy.
And coach, that's funny you said that, man. I don't know if it's just a coach's thing, but a lot of times I find myself doing the other coaches when we do that breakdown work. Most of the time, the head coaches always work with the guards. Man, you just go down there with It's funny you said that, and you're right though. Sometimes you you do have to fluctuate with this. So I'm gonna make sure I might change that up because lately I've been doing that as well. I'm working with the bigs, but you know, I don't know. But that's funny, coach. Man, that's funny. And I agree, man. It's good to have somebody on staff, man. You know, Justin worked with me at Pisgah, man. I consider him to be a lead head coach as well. So it's good to find some help. And I said this maybe 2 episodes ago, I've been noticing a lot of coaches been looking for assistant coaches. And I don't know. I do kind of know what it is. Obviously, you know, the money sometimes becomes into play because of the time, and then the classroom option, it also becomes a issue. But I'm just praying everybody gets some good assistant coaches because it's hard. It seems like it's getting harder to just find somebody. And I was talking to Coach Strong as well. Obviously, we've been working together this year, and she made some good suggestions that we could maybe set up some in a lot of colleges people who are in, I guess, physical education, health education, or coaching education. If we can start building a relationship with these colleges, so we can maybe start, you know, getting some young people out here, so maybe we can kind of fill these positions to help out a little bit. But if you can get a good assistant coach, please keep them. Shout out to my assistant coach at Richmond, Coach Thad Bridges, as well. All right, coach, let's get into our fast break questions, man. Let's kind of get to know you a little bit more. I'm gonna start with this question first, man. Coach, I keep up with you on Twitter. Coach, you a big Mississippi State guy, man. Anything going on Mississippi State? Football, baseball, basketball, softball, throwing rocks, man, skipping, doing anything, man. You Mississippi.
I'm gonna tweet about it, ain't I?
Yes, you are. So I got this question, Coach. Coach, give me your all-time Mississippi State athletes, man, and that's why I threw it out there because you love Mississippi State from esports. So And this is a tough one because, man, when you talk about all-time athletes at Mississippi State, man, it's so many to choose from,
Yes.
so many different levels. But Coach, give me your all-time 5 athletes that ever, to wear that maroon and white at Mississippi State.
I'm gonna ask you, can I cheat the system and just go ahead and give you one from each sport, man? Give you top 5 from each sport.
Yeah, it is. Go ahead and do that. Go ahead.
Okay. And of course, people aren't going to agree with me. I look at different things probably than the average person anyway. But with football, I grew up a Fred Smoot fan. If he ain't in my top 5, I don't know what I would do with myself. So you got to have Fred Smoot in there.
Yep.
Of course, Dak. That's more recent. He not necessarily. Of course, he got us the number 1 that year, but just the stuff he did for the school in general was huge. So I got Dak, Fred Smoot, Eric Moles, when I was real young. And then I'm gonna throw the defensive line some love right here and go Chris Jones and Jeffrey Simmons, man. We actually had a chance to coach against Chris Jones when he was at Houston in basketball. And that joker brought the house down one night, Coach. And I was like, I can see exactly why he's a D1 athlete. So baseball, it's tough to be honest with you because technically I would probably say Mississippi State has been a baseball school traditionally. I know it's a little bit rough on us now, but hopefully we'll get through. So I'm gonna go Palmero and Clark. Obviously, those are big 2. Jake Mangum, Hunter Renfro, and probably Jeff Brantley. Which 3 of those 5 were way when I was real young, or probably a little bit before one of them. So basketball, which is my sport now. You got to go Eric Dampier.
Yeah,
he came and visited us at Carthage when I was in kindergarten. I remember him coming in the auditorium having to duck to get into place. Daryl Wilson, probably the best basketball player ever to play there. Yeah. I was a huge Timmy Bowers fan growing up. And then I'm gonna throw the women some love and go local Scott County on you with Victoria Vivians.
Yeah.
Who her sister, Coach Buffkin, actually got to come help me my last year at Union in the spring. So she was there for our little playoff run, and she's a great person. And then I'm gonna go Tierra McGowan, big body female that took state. Her and Victoria were on those teams that made those runs. So you got to give them some love.
Yep. Man, that's a great list, man. I like you did it because you threw some names out there that I didn't even think about. Of course, Fred Smoot, man. Of course, that's the Jackson guy, man. Provide school. So anybody representing Jackson, I always love it. And be honest, to see Fred play at that level and then go to the NFL, like to see those guys come from our city, it gave us just encouragement and hope.
Right.
Just to know that we could do it when you see local guys or local young ladies just do it at a high level with that. Coach, this is one thing I know. Like you said, baseball has always been a staple of the program. Coach, I've heard people talk about the facility and maybe some of I don't know if it's the condos or apartments or something like that. Coach, talk to me a little bit about what Mississippi State got going on that baseball side. Because I heard that it looks pretty nice up there.
I'm really probably going to blow your mind when I tell you that as big a fan as I am, I have never been to a Mississippi State baseball game.
Oh, Coach, come on now, Coach.
I haven't. I've been to a million football games and a million basketball games, but I have never been able to get to a baseball game.
Hey, Coach, we got to get you to a baseball game, man.
I know. My wife has been on me about it, because I watch it every time they're on TV. I'm watching it.
You do. That's how I keep up with my Mississippi State baseball. I just see what Coach Wilbanks talking about. It helps me, man.
But I mean, I've seen pictures, and I listen to some podcasts when I get this drive to work. Gives me time to listen to different things. They have what they call lofts in left field, and it's like apartment kind of things that you can rent out. And I mean, they say it's an experience out there,
Man, cool. We got to get you to a game, man.
Oh, I'm gonna go. We got to turn the corner a little bit. I can't go watch this keep getting 10-run rule, but I'm gonna check it out.
It's hard to be able to see that, man. But that's sports, though, Coach. That's sports, and obviously, I was talking to my athletic director, Coach Montgomery. He was telling me sometimes that the pitching comes into play. I'm not sure. Pitching makes a big difference, and I'm not sure if it was this season or last season he was talking about, but that makes a difference.
Right.
Let's look at our next fast break question. Coach, if you can choose one player in the NBA to start a franchise with, who would that player be?
If we're going to talk current player at current age.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
If we're gonna go that route, it's really gonna be hard for me not to go with Luka, man.
Yeah.
I mean, he's averaging like 27, 28 points a game. This year, I think he averaged 32 or so. Now, which is funny, I pick him because, I'm a real defensive guy, and he's not probably known for his defense, but I'm hoping I can put 4 dogs around him and he can just go score for us.
Man, that's cool. I hope Dallas get it together, man. When you have those years when you got a guy who's playing at an elite level, you gotta take advantage of it because you just never know. But again, sometimes it takes time because in Michael Jordan, it took him a minute to be able to get a team around him. So
Right.
hopefully Dallas, can figure their part out. I thought the Kyrie Irving thing was going to work, sort of, kind of, but I knew
Right.
that when you got two guys that are ball dominant, that's kind of hard,
The
especially at
problem. Yeah.
the time of their career. That I agree, that makes it tough. I know Mississippi State is your favorite college program, but maybe it's someone else. What's your favorite college program and coach basketball wise? And it could be, and if you want to do college, it could be an NBA or just however you decide to do it. But what's kind of your favorite
Right.
program and just your favorite coach?
College, if you take Mississippi State out of it, man, I have always and to be funny about it, I really don't like Michigan State, but I have always respected the way Izzo does his job. He's an old school
Sir.
defensive first guy.
Mhm.
And then if you want to go, which I know he's not coaching at the moment, or he's retired at this point, but I always respected what Jay Wright did
Yeah.
at his program. Kind of put them on the map. He's a little quieter than I am, obviously, but he's probably a whole lot better of a practice coach than I am too. So he does all his yelling at practice. But as far as program, I grew up. This is tough, man. You love the Duke North Carolina rivalry. I got a friend that's a huge Tennessee fan, so I've watched them some.
Mhm.
If I go, I always tell myself, NBA wise, that I'm more of a player kind of person. I'll follow a player coach. They move a lot more anyway. I was a huge D Wade fan.
Yeah.
So I liked Miami, and I liked them. I was one of those that liked them before the big three were there winning all the time. And I know you're a Pelicans fan, and I'll root for them because that's the closest team we got.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I would like to see them get it together.
Yeah.
Uh, so that's probably it. That's probably what I'd go with.
Man, Coach D Wade, I mean not D Wade, with D Wade and the Miami Heat, that program really fits your style because everybody says, and I would love to see it, like to be in the organization of Miami Heat. Man, Coach Riley, man, he runs that thing. As people always say, like, he the lead of the mafia, as they say.
Right,
But
right.
they say they run that thing so tight, man, when it comes to body fat, conditioning, all those different things. But it shows you every year, like them guys really get at it. You can't be, as they say, a prima donna. You got to go in and you got to put that work in Miami. And they say like the pre-NBA workouts, the pre-draft workouts, they say, those are grueling. So I think, like you said, I like the culture of
Right.
Miami. And like you said, it was there before D Wade, but D Wade kind of expedited their process. So I like that, man, and I appreciate the love for the Pelicans, man. I'm trying to get more
Right.
people in the bandwagon,
Right.
man. All right,
Right.
the most popular question, it's coming, man. Our fans are excited to hear about your pick, the all-time starting five from the NBA coach. We want to hear what Coach Wilbanks got for his starting five.
Right. You got to go MJ.
MJ.
And to be honest with you, growing up, I did not even like MJ because my dad was such a Utah Jazz fan. He broke our hearts every time I sat there and watched it. But as I've grown and watched stuff back, I mean, you gotta respect it. So MJ, and then in my opinion, I know he's not been a very popular pick on your podcast so far, but if you go MJ, you got to go with Kobe. Kobe did everything.
Yeah.
After him, you know what I mean? Like he tried to be him. I don't want to say tried to be him, but to be honest with you, he probably did some things better. But he designed his game to be just like MJ.
Yeah.
Then you got to go Shaq to give you some size down there. So you got MJ, Kobe, Shaq. I'm gonna put Steph in there just to get some range. Uh, and this 4 spot is real tricky because as much as I respect LeBron, I'm not a very big LeBron fan. Now, he's a great player. And a friend of mine, me and him got in an argument, not an argument, but we were picking at each other because I told him, because you kind of, I knew this question was coming. I said, man, I'm gonna surprise you, throw Kevin Garnett in there just because he fits what I like to do.
Yeah.
But to be honest, if I gotta go all the time, I gotta put LeBron in there over my boy Kevin.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go MJ, Kobe, Shaq, LeBron, and Steph.
Yeah. Man, coach, that's not a bad list. That's somebody else had the exact same list. I think Kobe wasn't on that list. But this is something that I've been noticing, man. And originally when I had this question, I'm like, man, Magic is gonna be on everybody's list.
Right.
But man, Steph is like he's right there, and Magic, man, can't find a vote. And I told somebody on the last podcast, the last 2 podcasts, I told Carlisle and I told Coach Butler on the previous one. I said, man, I don't know if because the guys on here or the young ladies on here are a little bit younger, or
right.
Steph is really that dude, and I think he's really that guy. Because you just watching them do it at a high level, man. But I feel you on that, man. Kevin Garnett, and you be honest, man, this is just a hard decision to pick. But Kevin Garnett he's the guy that you would love to have, because most of the time when you got guys that do dirty work, like rebounding charges and the hype guy, they don't really score a lot. But he also scored a lot. So, man, that's the best of both worlds to get somebody who can give you, 20 points a game, but also do it on the defensive end. That was amazing to be able to see. It was tough to see him spend all those years in Minnesota.
Right.
But I do understand that was the culture during that time. But and to be honest, his name doesn't come up. Like if you probably going, I don't even know where people would rate him as the greatest of all, the greatest list of all time. But his number probably he's gonna be a little higher up the list, and I think just because of that reason, which is kind of unfair. But that's the life we live.
I was thinking of my 5, man. If you had to put that team together, I mean, you've already got enough scoring. You throw, like you just said, you throw your garbage man in there to do all the dirty stuff, and every team needs one. Even though he didn't make my final list, he was a very strong consideration.
That's true, man. Hey, but you got MJ, Kobe, Shaq, Steph, and LeBron. I'm glad you put Kobe and Shaq in there, because that's the question I got for you.
Right.
Who was the best duo? Was it Shaq and Penny, or was it Shaq and Kobe?
Man, I gotta go with Shaq and Kobe. And to be honest with you, Penny's injuries and stuff, I would like to see what happened with him in the best case scenario, because he was great. He really was. That was when Shaq was a whole different player too. He played a whole different style. They could have been really special.
They really could have.
If he stays healthy and Shaq stays, I mean, who knows what it would look like now.
Yeah, it really was. And to be honest, Coach, they were almost similar to the Golden State Warriors when you go back and look at their team. And I know people who may not be as I guess as seasoned as us may not remember this, but when you think about Dennis Scott, you think about Nick Anderson, you got Penny Hardaway, you got Shaq. I want to say Brian Shaw may have played on that team. Man, they had shooters, they had defense, they had everything you need to be successful. It was just hard to make it work. But I would have loved to be able to see that as well. Here's another matchup, Coach, and these are 2 guys that didn't win a championship. And it's funny to see Charles Barkley go back and forth with Shaq.
Right.
About championships, man. But to be honest, I like Barkley's confidence. I kind of wish he wouldn't criticize players as much. But, that's Charles Barkley to keep the show going.
Right.
Going for 2 power forwards? Are you going Charles Barkley, or are you going Karl Malone? And see, I didn't know you was a Utah fan, so man, I think it's a perfect question, man. Barkley,
right? Man, that's tough. Hey, in my little notes I wrote down, I specifically said I grew up a Jazz fan, and my pops would be really mad if I didn't pick Karl Malone, man. It's really hard for me not to go with him.
Yeah.
And I respect, like you said, Chuck was great. Yeah. And to be honest, he may be the better player, but my bias is going to play a factor, and we're going to have to go with the mailman.
Man, Post Malone, man. Jerry Salone, man. Did I pronounce that right? Yes. Yeah. Man, that when I broke down, I'm like you, I like to go back and watch games, and maybe I'm just a basketball junkie. I don't know. Hopefully it pays off for me one day. When I go back and just watch man, the offense, and somebody told me, they said, man, watch the offense that Utah is running. They're running the same thing over and over again. You got to take it through the post through Malone, but they got so many actions coming off of it, man. And that's just some beautiful offense. I don't know if that offense transition to today's game, but some of
Right.
the concepts, to watch John Stockton and Malone really work on that post, it's kind of amazing to be able to see. So, like, I just like looking at stuff like that and just see if anything I can just add.
Right.
I got one more question. I'm gonna throw another one in there as well.
Okay.
Coach, what'll be your all-time coaching staff? And obviously you can't choose your dad. I'm gonna let you choose your dad, make it a little bit harder, man. Can't choose Coach Jones. So and you can do it can do dead or alive, college or high school. You can come up with just an all-time coaching staff. Of course, we know Dad's gonna be on there, Eric Jones gonna be on there, but give us a couple more guys or young ladies that'll be on your staff.
I'm gonna stay away from the high school coaches because I heard Coach Carlisle say he was making mental notes. So I'm not on anybody's bulletin board this year. So I'm gonna go college and maybe even throw a pro one in there.
Yeah.
Being a girls coach, which I have been as the head coach, my whole career has been with girls. I got to go Pat Summit on there, just to respect them. I'm a Patino fan as far as coaching goes.
Okay.
So I would like to have him. I'm gonna try not to pick Jay Wright and Izzo because that's just I talked about them earlier. You got to go Phil Jackson in there.
Phil Jackson.
And then we're gonna go with that Mafia man you were talking about earlier. You're gonna throw Pat Riley in there with him. So you give me Pat Summit, Patino, Pat Riley, Phil Jackson.
Coach, I like that list, man. And to be honest, all of those coaches, they have something that they do well that each other coach doesn't do.
Right.
But at the same time, they all have that mental part of it. And it's different. Phil Jackson's mental part is different than Pat Riley, but it's still important. But Tino, right, obviously, man, and again, man, him and probably Pat Riley, they probably hang out together as well, man. But man, Patino, he's gonna, I saw when he was at Kentucky. This is early in his days, obviously, but man, you had to get it done. If you didn't get it done, it's on to the next guy. You better hope I put you back out there. So right, I really love that part about him. And then, of course, Pat Summit, man, what she demanded. Like when I heard her say, I think Candace Parker made a share that someone said that when they lost the championship game and they went back the next day and they got at it and Pat Summit had like a 2-hour practice, man, that's something serious, man.
Right.
And, I bet you thinking like, man, cause we just lost and you got us doing this, but that's old school, coach. I don't know if we can do this in new school, but they look at us crazy and be like, hey, coach, I see you in the spring.
Right.
But we need more coaches like that. I got another question I saw online I wanted to ask, but I'm gonna wait on it. It's funny you said that about Coach Carlisle. Again, he always watched the show. You watch it as well. But man, that tripped me out, man. Because you got to know Coach Carlisle, man. That came out of nowhere. He said, "Man, I'm watching y'all, man. Y'all done put me on y'all list."
Right.
And so I'm gonna start asking that question more a little bit just to see what happens, man. But I like that, Coach. I appreciate that you're watching the show, man, and I appreciate Coach Carlisle. Coach, man, we're going to get to the end, man. It's been a great interview, but before we go, Coach, we got to let you get the conclusion, man. We're going to give you the final shot. So, Coach, for those who may be new to the podcast, our final shot is when we allow our coach to take as much time as he or she needs, kind of address any issue that you have. It could be basketball, non-basketballs, no time limit. We just allowed them to better close the show. So, Coach Wilbanks, man, take the final shot. Okay.
I'm gonna change it up a little bit on you. Obviously I'm very appreciative for you having me on. Like I had said, I was watching the podcast and I would retweet the people that I had a good relationship with. Sharing that and trying to get you some more exposure with some people I know. Because me and you have that friendship that we have bonded. But having said all that, man, I'm going to take this time to just brag on you about it. The fact that you're doing this is giving us all I don't want to say a voice per se, but you really are. You're giving basketball some exposure that it hasn't been getting at times. And I know basketball is a big deal in the state of Mississippi, but I really wish, say it's 2012, I'm graduating. It'd have been great to be able to watch 20 of these episodes before I ever started coaching. You know what I mean? So I think you're doing a great job helping the younger coaches get into it and learn. And to be honest with you, I don't consider myself a veteran coach because I've only been a head coach for 6 years, but I've been around for 12 in the coaching world, and I'm still learning from the show too. So I just want to brag on you during this time about, your idea of doing this is great, man. I really appreciate all that you do for us as a coach, as Mississippi coaches.
Hey man, coach, hey man, make my heart full right there, man. I appreciate that, man. And I love Mississippi, man. I love basketball and I love what we have going on, man. And I think you're a staple of that. I think just the way you carry yourself and your programs, man. And I want people to be able to see those things. And I guess the most time you and I spent together was in the gym during the summer. And that's kind of really where I started to just say, man, I want to get to know coaches, and man, and I talked about it as well. That's kind of out of my element, out of my box a
Right.
little bit. But when I had conversation with guys like yourself, I was like, man, these people are human beings, man, and good people. We competing against one another, but at the end of the day, we really trying to help each other out. So, man, you saying that, I appreciate it. And, I appreciate the retweets, and I appreciate the everything, because it's funny, coach. And that's why I'm so appreciative. Like, some people, they see it, and it's no knock, because I understand it, because sometimes I'm like that. But just for you to retweet it so somebody else can see it or like it, that's kind of what it's really about. It's not really about me. It's really about kind of spotlighting, what you just said. So, man, I'm thankful for it. I appreciate you for saying that. And I just pray it keeps growing, man. And, I want to be there. I talked to you about some things I'm thinking about doing for next season, but hopefully we get that kind of rolling, man. I want to be there when you finally win that championship, man, because I was definitely rooting for you. Always rooting for, individuals that I have relationships with and just see,
Right.
because, it's no jealousy with it. Like, and I want to kind of, because sometimes we look at each other. You may look at Coach Wilbanks. He's been doing it a lot younger, a lot shorter than some of us have. But I look at it, it's when I go to Coliseum, of course, I want to be down there. I want to see there. But if I can attach myself to some individuals that I know, man, I feel like I'm winning too. So, man, we're proud of what you're doing, coach, and man, excited for what you're doing. And then, man, you assistant AD, man, you assistant principal, man, you doing it big, man. So, you living the life, man. So keep it up, coach, man. And I've been saying this, and I'm gonna say it on your episode as well. Support Coach Wilbanks, man. I want to ask him about this, but like in the summertime, I was gonna ask about things he's doing in the summer, but I know kind of got a vibe for. But support your local high schools, man. And like I said earlier, we don't need you sitting behind them on top trying to coach them, but give them, donate your time, donate your effort, support what he got going on, donate to the kids, because they need it. Like, coaches, we need these things, because we're trying to create some great experiences for our kids. And the more resources we have, the more resources we have, the more we can do. And we're not trying to, I'm not, again, nobody's paying me to say this. We're not trying to get anybody's money. We just using this podcast for promotion. And that's what happens. Because when you think about this, for those who are listening, colleges do the exact same thing. They go out and they lean on relationships that they have with Fortune 500 companies, all type of, to be able to support what they got going on. So just imagine if, let's say, the alumni of Morton High School or the citizens of Morton just say, hey, man, we're going to support Coach Wilbanks this year, and we're going to donate X amount of dollars. Just imagine what that'll do for the program, kids. So I've been saying it, man, support your local middle schools, high schools, your colleges. Just really come out of support, because that makes a major, major difference, man. And so, Coach, man, shout out to you, shout out to your wife, your family, and all my friends in Scott County, man. And to next episode, as I always say, be kind and be nice to someone. We'll see you on the next episode.